The Mediterranean is a closed basin between the Bosphorus Strait and the Strait of Gibraltar. Within it, linguistic, political and religious diversity unite 28 countries and 3 different continents into a great cultural koine: Europe, North Africa and West Asia. About 450 million people and 3 major monotheistic religions, Judaism, Christianity and Islam, are united by sharing a heritage that has been the basis of the very idea of civilization. Water is the origin of life and is the engine for the development of human communities that can secure prosperities and supplies from the management of this blue gold. The Mediterranean has always been a crossroad of trade and migratory phenomena. Its waters are home to a variety of living forms that make it one of the hotspots of global biodiversity. But this natural wealth risks being compromised and may affect the lives of millions of people. Climate change is threatening the availability of water in the Mediterranean basin, with worrying effects. Nearly 4 billion people around the world experience severe water shortage for at least 1 month a year. The world's population is growing at a high rate, aided by the development of urban areas, new exodus, and high birth rates in some areas of the world. This also contributes to critical issues on the waterfront. Therefore, the Campania region wants to bring Mediterranean countries together to debate the hot topics and future challenges that will affect our liquid continent. Turkey is one of the richest countries in the Mediterranean as for water. Its demand has almost doubled in the second half of the last century and continues to increase as consequence of the drought effects and rising population growth.
The largest problem of the water cycle is what we call anthropogenic effects. That's to say effects of growing populations, because the population is growing fast, global populations, and there is simply not enough water, number one. Or maybe there is still enough water, but it's not going to be enough for a long time.
The country has one of the highest threat levels to water safety in Europe, and many areas face high water stress. Although these precious resources remain abundant, rainfall and accumulations in reservoirs are set to decrease. About 74% of Turkey's total water supplies is used in the agricultural sector, which employs nearly 50 million people. The first project related to water management dates back to 1970s in the region of southeastern Anatolia. It is a set of 22 dams, 19 hydroelectric power plants, and an extensive irrigation system that exploits the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. The aim of this project was to promote the development of rural areas and increase the production of electricity. Morocco, like other North African countries, suffers from an endemic water shortage. In this country, the water cycle is complicated and leads to a constant reduction in groundwater reserves. The causes are well known: the climate change and a strong dependence on rain of the agricultural sector. It was therefore decided to combine the desalination technique with solar energy.
There's other technologies, but the leading technology at the moment, the most cost-effective, is membrane-based desalination. This is here to stay.
The largest desalination plant powered by renewable energies has been built in Morocco. This revolutionary project aimed to obtain drinking water for the population, as well as the water needed for crops around the city of Agadir, on the southern coast of the country. The energy is drawn from the solar plant of Ouarzazate, a suggestive city close to the Sahara Desert. From here, the high voltage cables that feed the new system with a reverse osmosis process run for about 400 kilometers. An innovative system that consists in passing the salt water through numerous filters that eliminate impurities and salts, making it drinkable and usable for irrigation.
And I think the membranes for desalination will be used worldwide for a lot of treatment processes. This is the future for drinking water production.
Sustainable desalination will make it possible to transform deserts and semi-arid areas into green and productive crops. The islands represent a separate reality due to their peculiar climatic and physical conditions. In the Greek ones, the problem of low rainfall is added to the semi-arid climate.
Water cycle globally and locally is much more complicated. And in Mediterranean country, in this region especially, I believe that there are some specific issues, notably less probable predictability of the precipitation events.
Water management is affected by the limited dimensions caused by the typical physical conformation of the islands, the remotes from the mainland, and the scarcity of available resources. The main economic subsistence of these places is centered on key sectors such as tourism. This means being able to manage large numbers that require targeted solutions to rely on its internal capacity. From the collection of rainwater, which is easier to carry out, to the transport of fresh waters and desalination. It is therefore necessary to strengthen the technological and management capacities in order to make the most of the island's freshwater supply and reduce the waste and pollution. The effort to be made is in the hands of professionals in the water sector and the entire community, with particular attention to tourism operators. Like Turkey, Tunisia faces the growing problem of water management. In recent years, the scarcity of groundwater has become an emergency to be reckoned with. Freshwater resources have become increasingly limited due to the rise in demand and agricultural needs, which absorbs most of the current availability. From the end of the 1980s onwards, large volumes of investments have flowed into the collection and reuse of wastewater and the construction of dams and wells at different depths. Financial and technical cooperation between the public and private sector was then launched in the country in order to implement shared policies for a better management and protection of water resources.
As any Mediterranean country, the water scarcity is a huge environmental issue, in a sense that the resource of water is really limited, so we need to address this issue, and we should think that usually, for instance, groundwater is potential drinking water. So if it's that groundwater is contaminated or any water body is contaminated, we should deal with that.
Tunisia is thus able to export its know-how to other regions of Africa and the Middle East. The country remains the main consumer of water in the entire European Mediterranean area. Therefore, it will have to continue on the path of implementing virtuous action in order to meet its internal growth needs. Even in the Iberian Peninsula, drought is a problem that has been going on for several decades, mainly due to the increasing temperature rise. That's why it is important to implement a wastewater management that meets the population's needs.
Wastewater treatment plants are necessary in cities because basically it's the way to return water with a good quality and a low impact into the environment.
Urban wastewaters represent a danger to public health, as well as being the main cause of coastal and internal pollution. The Murcia region in south Spain is one of the hardest hit by drought.
Turning wastewater from an energy demanding process to an energy producing process will be a big change in wastewater treatment.
The country's agricultural sector requires an amount of fresh water that is not always available. This is why the development of a system for the exploitation of groundwaters contaminated by nitrates and salts, capable of retaining the nutrients necessary to irrigate the fields, has been underway for several years. The reuse of regenerated water from municipal purification plants plays an essential role in Spain and Europe for various purposes. In fact, it guarantees the elimination of pathogens and other components from the waters and ensures a sustainable and safe support for future generations. As early as 2025, half of the world's populations could live in areas subject to water scarcity. The Campania region is actively engaged in this regard and intends to promote collaborations between academic realities for research projects and exchanges of experiences between economics operators of different countries. On these issues, Naples, which for centuries has played a pivotal role in history and culture, could become the engine and center of gravity of a new, advanced and sustainable Mediterranean.